So there's a shooting that had happened in Kentucky, and I just kind of want to review some of it. There's a man who was shot by the Kentucky State Police troopers early Thursday morning after a standoff in Gallatin County, according to KSP. The Critical Incident Response Team is investigating the shooting. It happened Thursday morning at around 4:45 a.m. It was super cold. People were evacuated. I'm not for sure. They're saying it's at a mobile home park. There's a mobile home called Asbury Point. I'm not for sure if that's where it's at. The man allegedly had fired shots identified as 54-year-old James E. Walter from Warsaw. And then they said he continued to fire his gun inside his home and verbally threatened to shoot law enforcement. If he shot inside his home, then there would be bullet holes right in the wall and the ceiling somewhere else. And this sounds like a terrifying, situation. People get pissed off. If you could talk to the person, you would like to be able to talk to the person before the incident happens. But once it gets to this point, it's what do you do? What do you do? What is, the best thing to do? So, overall, let's see, I guess I'll just say a couple things. It's happened at 4:45 in the morning, so crazy. Somebody might just lose their mind. It's super, early hours. And it was the Kentucky State Police, so this the state troopers. And so the sheriff's office had called the KSP in to help with them. And they tried to negotiate, right? They said negotiations and de-escalation tactics were used. I'm not for sure exactly. I'm not for sure how long these, what negotiations, what de-escalation tactics were used. At about 4:45 a.m., KSP said that Walter had opened the door to his home and presented his firearm. Presenting his firearm doesn't mean he came out with the gun pointed at anybody. Is the gun just in his hands? Because if the gun is just in his hands, in the Wild Wild West, it's when you pull the weapon, when you pull your weapon out of your holster. When you pull your weapon out of your holster, then you could say that the person intended lethal intent. Troopers on the Special Response Team engaged with Walter. He was fatally shot. Nobody else was injured. They said they didn't know how many times Walter was shot or which officers had fired those shots. They didn't say who, but they know who shot the shots. They know who had actually gone to the scene. Typically, they'll be put on administrative leave. They know how many times he was shot as well. And there's a dash camera and there's body camera of this entire, incident, none of which has been released. Here's another article. It says that state police was deployed Thursday morning to a trailer park in Gallatin County in response to a man allegedly firing a gun outside and inside his home before he was reportedly shot and killed by, probably KSP as well, but the Gallatin Sheriff's Office was there too. The trailer park was evacuated. SRT was called in to negotiate with the man, 54-year-old James E. Walter of Warsaw. I don't know who this James E. Walter of Warsaw was, and I don't know what he was going through. Whoever ticked him off that day, shouldn't have done that. And when I think about just the state of our country in general, I just read this headline that says we're headed for an economic war. And I'm not sure, Warren Buffett, I don't know if Warren Buffett said that or not, but his name was a part of that headline. So is Warren Buffett saying that we need to be prepared for an economic war? That means there's going to be a squeeze. There's going to be an economic squeeze, and that means things are going to get tougher. They're going to get tougher. When I think about how cops just, kill people in America, it's usually about 3,000. About 3,000 Americans are killed every year by police officers, throughout the country. And that works out to about 9, 10 people per day. And you don't want anyone to get executed because that's capital punishment. There's people that are, convicted of the most heinous felonies out there, violent crimes, arsons, rapes, stealing, assaults, murders, who don't even get the chair for it. And so to think that you could just, get shot up just because you were pissed off and you couldn't, calm yourself down, and you didn't have anybody who gave a listening ear. KSP, one killed and trooper involved shooting in Gallatin County. I would like to see, some of the body camera footage, some of the dash camera footage, what had led up to it, what did we witness, what is on videotape, what do we know. They say that there was shooting prior, so that means what? Somebody called 911. There would be a 911 tape, right? So there would be there's a lot of evidence that's not being put out in the name of transparency. Presume that you're innocent until proven guilty. So presume that they did all that they needed to do, but just, show us. Show that it was early in the morning, you showed up, you tried this tactic, that tactic, you evacuated the trailer park, and then it took an hour of negotiation. You tried to call him this way or talk to him this way, and nothing had worked. And then he shows up at the door with a gun in his hand. Since it was presented, if it's in his hand, it only takes just not even half a second for him to lift it up and shoot. So it just sucks. It sucks. It fucking sucks. It fucking sucks, because this culture isn't very conducive to the golden rule. You want to treat others the way you want to be treated, but people can be assholes, and you have a right to speak, right? So you could say asshole remarks if you want to, and so people aren't there for each other. And since people aren't there for each other, somebody gets, pissed off. There's something, Jordan Peterson said, there's something about humankind that once you get pissed off, then you kind of just keep going on, and then you're not able to stop. I'm not for sure if it was Asbury Point. Asbury Point is like a big trailer park, but I'm not sure if this is a big trailer park or not. I'm not for sure where this even is located. Somewhere in northern Kentucky, in Warsaw, so somewhere in the town of Warsaw, this had happened. Now, it said that it started in a Warsaw mobile home park around 10:30 p.m. So in some respects, I guess it took, 7 hours. It took 7 hours before eventually lethal force had been used. And I'd like to think that they tried to shoot him in the leg, maybe try to shoot the gun out of his hand, right? I would like to think that some other tactic, you should try to exhaust all peaceful options before you push for violence. And then even when you push for violence, you got the hierarchy of force. You use commands, and if you're able to use hands or feet, you use hands or feet. If you're able to use a taser or pepper spray, you use a taser or pepper spray. And then even if you have to pull a gun, a lot of times they shoot center mass. Why wouldn't they shoot a warning shot or two? I think that the more steps in the escalation, the hierarchy of force would be best. To ensure the safety of all involved, law enforcement evacuated residents of the mobile home park. The gunman, identified as James E. Walter, 54, continued to fire his weapon inside his trailer, threatened to shoot law enforcement, says the state police. So all we have is really the words of, this person, that person, other people. There's 3 or 4 trailers that's lined up in a row. And it doesn't say, again, where this was located. It's not saying the street name. It's not saying the address. Was he renting? Was it somebody else? At 4:21, an air care pilot was dispatched to fly around the Glencoe area on standby just in case the medical helicopter was needed to respond to a SWAT situation with a veteran in Gallatin County. So that's interesting. Why are they in Glencoe? And maybe, Glencoe is, 20 minutes away or so. And why wouldn't you be in Warsaw? It's like I don't understand. It would have been smart to have the helicopter in the town that it was actually in. And again, the 911 call hasn't been released, the dash camera hasn't been released, nor has the body camera been released. I could see this being justified, and I could also see it being justified, but could we have done something better? And I could also see it being unjustified as well. So to me, I want things to work out the way that it should. And so part of me wants to say that it's justified, but I know too many things that happen in this country that it's not justified, So they said shortly after that air care pilot was dispatched to Glencoe around 4:45 a.m., They said Walter opened the door to his mobile home and showed his gun again. And then that's when they said SWAT team members engaged with Mr. Walter and he received fatal injuries. That's just such a weird way to say it, you know? It's such a weird way to say it. He opened the door, he had a gun in his hand, and he got shot. You know, 3 officers fired their gun. These 3 officers, this is their names, they're put on administrative leave for 2 weeks. They're going to do an investigation, most likely say that it was all, you know, kosher, on the up and up, and it was totally justified. But just, you know, be on the up and up and be completely transparent. What was the 911 call? Did it say that he had heard? Was there a witness that said that they had heard gunshots? Since they were there for 7 hours, then that means, you know, you saw him coming out of the door, in the door, you heard gunshots. They say that there was gunshots inside the house. Which house was it? This house, that house? You know, we're not being told a lot of things except the kind of the end result of the thing, and the end result was the worst possible outcome. Now, this Walter's neighbor said that he was a military veteran and that he had suffered from PTSD. She said he hadn't lived in the area that long and he hadn't caused any issues before. She heard him yelling late Wednesday night. Walter's stepdaughter released the following statement to Fox 19 Now about the incident. We want to remember and honor my stepdad, James Jimmy Walter, a proud U.S. veteran, a loving father, husband, friend, and the best papa his grandchildren could have ever asked for. He may not have been our father by blood, but he was our dad in every way that truly mattered. He served his country with dedication, carrying the values of strength, honor, and sacrifice throughout his life. But beyond his service, he was a man of kindness, wisdom, and an unwavering heart. He loved fiercely, and that love never wavered. To his grandchildren, he was their beloved papa, always ready with a hug, a joke, or a helping hand. So that sucks. He was a good man. He was a good man, and somebody had pissed him off. He had a bad day. He was tired. He just needed to go to bed, you know, put himself to bed and just take a nap, you know, and read a book, do some breathing exercises, do some meditation, go for a walk. He probably needed a dog, you know. If he had a dog, that could have helped him out as well. He filled our lives with stories, laughter, and lessons that will stay with us forever. His love was boundless, a constant source of warmth and strength. While I like this statement, I kind of want to hear some specifics, like what stories and what else did he do, because it's up to the living to remember the dead. Now in his absence, there is a space no one else can fill. Losing him is a pain we can't put into words, but we know his spirit lives on in the love he left behind. We will forever be grateful for the man he was and the father, husband, papa, and friend he chose to be. In his honor, we also want to bring light to the importance of mental health and PTSD awareness. If you or someone you love is struggling, please reach out for help. Use any resource you can to get your hands on, and most importantly, keep reaching out until somebody listens. You're not alone, and your voice matters. James Jimmy Walter had a deep, lifelong love for airplanes, a passion that made his work feel less like a job and more like a calling. He could spend hours talking about aircraft, their mechanics, and the freedom of the skies, his eyes lighting up with every conversation. Whether he was working on them, watching them soar, sharing stories about his experiences, airplanes were woven into the fabric of his life. His love for aviation wasn't just about the machines themselves, it was about the sense of purpose, adventure, and craftsmanship that came with him. For him, work was never just work. It was a chance to do what he loved every single day. There's a lot of people that you could describe pretty much in those, you know, that soaring rhetoric, with those soaring words. Good man, good person, full of love, willing to lending a helping hand, give the shirt right off his back. The man has died after being shot by the police, following a standoff. Let's see, any other information? James E. Walter, when you say the name of the dead, to the earth are still alive, was firing a gun outside his residence into the air. So why is he doing this? You know, what triggered him off? What set him off? Is he just pissed off? Did somebody say something? Did somebody do something to him? Is he just, you know, wrestling with demons? What set him off? Because this isn't the full story. When you get to the person who's already been pissed off, then something had done something to trigger that. There was some catalyst, something that galvanized him into that. So, this is a pretty decent story, a lot of information, but we're not getting the whole story. Now, are we? There's 7 hours. There's 7 hours should be a videotape of this entire incident. And I haven't seen anything about it. So, it might be out there, but I haven't come across the 911 call. I haven't come across any body camera footage or any dash cam footage at all. KSP, they said they tried to defuse the situation with negotiating tactics, including calling in the state's special response team. I got an officer at my door with a rifle in his hand telling me to go back inside. He didn't know if there was going to be gunshots fired or not, said next door neighbor David Matt. At about 4:45 a.m., police say Walter opened the door to his home with his gun in his hand. At that point, members of the SRT fired at Walter, who died at the scene from his injuries. So, that would be something to know, too. Was it a part of the Warsaw police, Gallatin police, or the state, police? Who are the ones that actually fired their weapon? Really, you just need one person to fire the weapon. Woke up this morning to a detective at my door, and that's the moment I knew somebody lost their life, said David Matt. No other residents or officers were injured. They're investigating it. Let's see. Matt says Walter was a veteran who had been going to the VA for help. Matt believes his camera clearly caught the shooting on video. So that means David Matt has the video of the shooting. State police and the detectives will find it and see it, and hopefully they can bring a conclusion to this. I know it won't be a happy end. It won't be on a happy end, I know that much. It's a very sad day for his wife, his grown kids, any grandbabies that don't get to be with their grandpa. It's a sad day. It absolutely is a sad day. And so, they'll investigate themselves and say that they, did everything on the up and up. But in the name of transparency, all this information should be put out, immediately. If I'm a police officer, and something terrible like this had happened, I would put out all the information that's out there. Sometimes they'll edit it, sometimes they'll just put out the part, where it turns deadly. Even that's better than nothing, It's like, just trust me, just trust the words that I say to you. And it's like, I need more than that. So, RIP to this James E. Walter. Good husband, good father, good grandfather. It means we lost a good one. We lost a good one, and it seemed pretty much unnecessary. I saw this one video where the police had taken down a guy with a machete. The guy was swinging a machete all over the place, and you had two cops with shields and one guy with this long metal pole, and they were able to knock the guy down, put the metal pole over him. He couldn't get up. They came close to him with the shields. One guy grabbed the machete, threw it off to the side, and then they were able to arrest the guy. I guess I just, in general, just wish that we had valued life. I wish we valued life more, and that more people were, either mad or sad, disappointed, instead of just automatically, defending the murder, because the guy was killed, right? And in terms of whether there's probable cause for a grand jury indictment, and zealous and overzealous, maybe, prosecutor could definitely get an indictment, and if our judicial system worked the way that I think that it should, then a jury would acquit the person. But instead, it's going to be done internally, all behind closed doors, and then they're going to come back and say, we did everything on the up and up, we did right, we did good. 100% totally justified. That's always the conclusion, whether they did good or not. It's also easy to Monday night quarterback. 2020 is hindsight. And maybe there was no other possibilities. Maybe he just wanted to do a suicide by cop or something. Maybe he just wanted to keep on pushing. Maybe he was just in so much pain. I don't know. But RIP to James E. Walter of Warsaw, Kentucky.